talk about a pretty controversial issue with this election. In fact, the Dallas News recently reported that Shingle Mountain becomes defining political issue in Southeast Dallas Council race. Tell me a little bit more about your passion for this particular issue and the importance.
Well, for me, Shingle Mountain was, or is, a issue that I've been addressing since I was in office. When I first got elected, one of the first issues that came to me was Dowdy Ferry. Right as Dowdy Ferry came, and if you're familiar with Dowdy Ferry is off I-20. It's an area that's notorious for illegal dumping, animal dumping, sometimes human dumping as well. So it's an area that has been very difficult to maintain and to control. But at the same time, there was another area that I learned as I was canvassing Highland Hills, the J.J. Lemon Park area. And it became known to me as 6210 J.J. Lemon. This particular lot, if you will imagine a 3.5 acre lot that had shingles and construction materials from one end to the next, literally. In the middle of the lot stood a house. There were areas that had a 3-foot high floor of shingles. On top of that were 6 shingles and construction material. Now, the community voiced their concerns, and they had been calling, code had been coming out, and nothing had been done. And it seemed that day by day it was growing, because what was happening is it had gotten to the point to where that individuals could no longer dump on the actual lot, so they were dumping outside the gate. And what happened was other individuals started dumping their trash there illegally as well. So it compounded. Code would come, they would clean it up. As soon as they cleaned it up, they'd start back again. And the community was frustrated because it looked awful. It was paint material, shingles, and just whatever else people wanted to throw. We had our first meeting at College Park Baptist Church. Pastor Adams, and he voiced his concern, his frustration with what was happening and the lack of action that had been happening prior to me being elected. So what we did was, I got with our city manager, and we laid out a plan on how and when it was going to be cleaned up. Well, thanks to their effort and the continuous community meetings that we had to discuss the progress, when it would start, when should they expect it to be cleaned up, we were able to get that cleaned up in 9 months. Hello, my name is Erik Wilson, and I'm running for Dallas City Council District 8. I proudly served you as your councilman in 2015. I want to continue the great things we started together. We fought hard and delivered the necessary infrastructure to create jobs, housing, and entertainment in District 8. We did it together by creating the access roads off of I-20, both east and westbound, into Redbird Mall. We did it together by creating water and sewer options in the new Wheatland Road project. We did it together by the new signal lights at the Great Trinity Forest Way and Pemberton Hill Road. We did it together in Kleberg with the soon-to-be water park. I am a strong leader that listens to your concerns and acts decisively. I don't tell you why something can't be done. I work with you to find a solution. I don't talk at you. I will work with you. I am about solutions over speeches.
This political ad is paid for by the Erik Wilson campaign, Lionel Churchill, Treasurer.
Now, that was not the first time that I had to deal with an environmental issue in District 8. there also was lane plating, which was brought to me in late 2016. And that to this day is an effort that we're fighting to get cleaned up. It has now become a Superfund site. And if you're not familiar with lane plating, it's a business that used to dip chrome or chrome plating items such as bumpers and various items. And this site had been in operation for over 50 to 60 years. And as a result of environmental injustices that have been done on the property, the EPA came in and cited the owner in violation. Thus, they went bankrupt because they did not want to pay the fines. So we have a vacant building that sits now with contaminated soil, and we're working with the EPA to come up with a solution. This is not going to be an overnight process. The EPA has told us that this could take anywhere from 10 years to complete. So we're working with the community, and I am co-chair of the Holly Hill Action Committee, and we're looking for residents that are closely affected by the site to be on this committee and to help lead this charge so that we can make sure that all residents that are potentially affected by any of the type of lead, chromium, or arsenic that's on the property, that they receive their due justice. So it's going to take a community effort, and this is going to be a long, unfortunately drawn out process because of the EPA. Then we have Shingle Mountain. Shingle Mountain. Ms. Jackson started calling after Shingle Mountain first began with Blue Star Recycling when they first went onto the site in January of 2018. They moved in. They started bringing in shingles in February of 2018. That is when she started calling. She called and complained about what was going on, inquiring about what was happening, noticed that the shingles were being brought in all times of the night, late at night, began to grow. Well, just so happened, she had came to the lane plate meeting that we had, and she got in contact with some individuals, and the news picked it up. And that's where Robert Rolonsky wrote his first story. Prior to that, she had been calling and trying to get someone to help her, her representative to respond to her, and nothing had been done. The story comes out, gets a little attention, and now people are starting to notice that Shingle Mountain is truly a mountain. By then, it had moved from a mound to a mountain. So from December of 2018 till a couple of weeks ago, when the judge stayed the SUP or the ordered the shutdown of Blue Star and ordered them to remove the materials in 90 days. Between December and March was the greatest action that she's had in dealing with that. And I was with her side. I went out to visit her, talked to her neighbors. We talked about what we could do and how we could create legislation or ordinances to prevent this from happening again. More importantly, how we could close Blue Star down and get them to remove the materials. Very proud of the effort of the group that was put together, that I was part of, and that we were able to accomplish that goal and to get them shut down. But to this day, they have not removed one shingle.
So let me ask you a question about that, just so I can understand the timeline. Tell me when Ms. Jackson started complaining about the problem, so that I can understand from that point to now how long has it been?
She had been complaining and calling 311 since February of 2018. From February 18 through December, nothing, very little had been done in terms of code coming out and looking at it and saying everything was okay, or just not doing anything, period. So there was no movement, but at the same time, this pile kept getting bigger and bigger. The smell became greater and greater. So much so that a few of her neighbors stopped their children from playing outside because of the smell. If you were outside, it began to affect your breathing. So much so there was one child that had to go to the hospital because of his breathing. So this became a real problem for her, because literally this particular one pile was probably less than 50 feet from her house.
Throughout this time, who had she been contacting?
Throughout this time, she had been reaching out to anyone that would listen. In the city of Dallas, she had been contacting 311. She contacted her current councilman. She contacted anyone from the TCEQ to try to figure out what was going on, and nobody responded. She didn't receive any response from her council member until the story was about to break, when Robert Rolonsky stopped her council member in the hallway and asked him, did he know about this? And at the time, he said he didn't know. Then that was his first time ever seeing the mountain. By this time, it had become the mountain as we know it.
So all of this time she had been reaching out to all of these different people and nothing had been done until the story got ready to break on the news.
Correct.
Then we have now gotten a response. So as of today, you're saying none of the shingles have been removed?
Correct. To this day, nothing has been removed. According to the injunction that was filed by the city of Dallas, they have 90 days to begin to remove the materials. It's not a point of reducing. They no longer can produce or no longer can accept any type of materials, nor can they grind any material. They are to remove the material and cease operation.
You were quoted saying in the Dallas Morning News, the one thing I understood, I wasn't the one who put the shingles there. But the citizens wanted to know that I cared enough and was responsible enough to be able to clean them up. What do you think the message Ms. Jackson is getting after waiting so long?
Well, she got the message that her representative didn't care. People did not care enough about her and individuals that live in her community, because her home is right next door to the city dump. And she felt like she's always been left out of everything, and nobody really cared about her or her neighbors, and they were just forgotten. But she wanted them to know that she had been there for 23 years. She's been there for 23 years, and that this is not something that she just moved into. Blue Star just moved in, and it was frustrating to her because it seemed like people cared more about making sure that Blue Star was okay as opposed to her health and her neighbor's health.
Where are we now with this process? Do you see that it's going to get resolved in the next 30 to 60 days, or is this going to be a fight that you're going to have to continue?
Unfortunately, I feel that this is going to continue long past the 90 days. At this point in time, they have not, started removing any materials or doing any type of signs that they're willing to comply or going to comply with the judge's orders. This story probably will warrant another write-up, another article about the inactivity or inability of Blue Star to adhere to the court's order. And this is something that we're going to stay on and have been in daily communications about. Have we seen any type of progress? The organization, Downwinders, we're still together. We're still actively monitoring this situation. This was just one phase in order to get them closed and get the shingles removed. That was the first part. The other part is to enact ordinances so that this type of activity does not reoccur again. And if you look at the history of environmental injustice, it always tends to happen in areas of minorities or low-income areas. Either minorities are moved into an existing area that has environmental injustice, or the minority neighborhood or community, the material is brought in to them. And this is just another classic example when you look at the history, the 30-year studies that have been done on countless areas of Chicago, Michigan, where that minority communities have been at a disadvantage from either air, water, or land injustices. And this is just another unfortunate situation, and that we're looking to create ordinances to prevent this from happening ever again in the city of Dallas.